The notification sound from my phone should have been my first warning that my life was about to implode. Instead, I was elbow deep in sawdust, installing custom cabinets in the Hendersons' kitchen, when that cheerful little ping changed everything. "Tom, you might want to see this," Pete called from across the room, his voice carrying that particular tone that meant someone was about to get their world rocked. My best friend and business partner held up his phone, screen facing me, wearing the expression of a man who'd rather be anywhere else. I wiped my hands on my jeans and walked over, expecting maybe another meme or a video of someone doing something stupid with power tools. What I got instead was my wife Jenna's face, perfectly lit and camera-ready, speaking directly into her phone with that practiced influencer smile she'd been perfecting. "You know what I've learned, ladies?" Jenna's voice chirped from the tiny speaker. "Sometimes settling for stability is better than staying single and waiting for Prince Charming." The camera panned slightly, and there I was in the background, completely oblivious, wearing yesterday's Red Sox t-shirt and scratching my ass while reading the morning paper. The perfect picture of mediocrity, apparently. "I mean, look at this," Jenna continued, gesturing vaguely in my direction without actually looking at me. "Steady job, owns his own business, never cheats, always comes home. It's not fireworks, but it's reliable. Sometimes that's enough." The video had been posted 2 hours ago. It already had 300 likes and 47 comments, most of them from her girlfriends with variations of "so true, babe," and "you're such an inspiration." Jesus Christ, I muttered, watching my marriage get reduced to a public service announcement about settling for less. "She actually posted this?" Pete grimaced. "Gets worse, buddy." Check the comments. I scrolled down, each message feeling like a small knife between the ribs. Lexi Morrison, Jenna's self-appointed best friend and professional mean girl, had written, "Girl, you are such a saint. I could never be that patient." Raina Walsh chimed in with, "Tom's lucky to have you. Most women wouldn't put up with, well, put up with what exactly? I worked 60-hour weeks building their dream kitchens and custom closets. I'd never cheated, never hit her, never even raised my voice except during Patriots games. My biggest crime seemed to be existing in the same frame as my wife's social media ambitions." "You okay, man?" Pete asked, genuine concern creeping into his voice. "Peachy," I replied, handing him back his phone. "Nothing like finding out your wife thinks you're a consolation prize through Instagram." The Henderson job suddenly felt less important. I packed up my tools with mechanical precision, my mind racing through the implications. This wasn't just a casual comment or a moment of frustration. Jenna had planned this. She'd set up the shot, recorded multiple takes probably, edited it, and posted it for the world to see. She'd turned our marriage into content. "Want to grab a beer?" Pete offered. "Talk this through?" "Nah. I think I need to go home and have a conversation with my wife about her definition of stability." The drive home took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of my brain cycling through every interaction we'd had in the past month, looking for clues I'd missed. The way she'd been glued to her phone during dinner, the sudden interest in girls' nights with Lexi and Raina, the new clothes, the gym membership, the way she'd started doing her makeup even for trips to the grocery store. I pulled into our driveway, the driveway I'd paved myself, leading to the house I'd renovated with my own hands, and sat in my truck for a moment, staring at the front door. Through the window, I could see Jenna on the couch, phone in hand, probably reading comments and basking in the attention. When I walked inside, she looked up with that bright fake smile she used for clients and social media. "Hey, honey! How was work?" "Enlightening," I said, settling into my recliner. "Learned some interesting things about stability today." Her smile faltered for just a second. "Oh? Yeah. Apparently, I'm the human equivalent of a participation trophy." "Who knew?" The color drained from her face. "Tom, I can explain." "Can you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you just told 3,000 of your closest internet friends that being married to me is like settling for the generic cereal. Same basic nutrition, but nobody's excited about it." "It wasn't like that," she stammered, setting down her phone. It was about being realistic, about appreciating what you have instead of always wanting more. Right. And what I am is the what you have in this scenario, the sensible choice, the reliable option that's better than being alone. Jenna's jaw tightened. You're twisting my words. Am I? Because Lexi seems to think you're a saint for putting up with me. Raina's impressed by your patience. What exactly are you putting up with, Jen? What requires so much patience? She stood up, crossing her arms defensively. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Everyone my age is either married to doctors and lawyers, or they're single and traveling the world. I'm stuck in the middle. Stuck. I repeated the word slowly. That's what I am to you. Something you're stuck with. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Because I've been trying to figure out how a woman tells the internet that her husband is basically human Ambien without meaning exactly that. The argument continued for another hour, circling the same points. She claimed it was taken out of context. I pointed out that context was literally her pointing at me while describing settling for less. She accused me of being too sensitive. I reminded her that she'd made our private life public without asking. Finally, she played her trump card. Maybe if you showed a little more ambition, I wouldn't have to explain our relationship to people. And there it was. The truth underneath all the social media spin and damage control. I wasn't successful enough, exciting enough, good enough for the image she wanted to project. I was the before picture in her personal transformation story. I went upstairs, packed a bag, and called Pete. Can I crash in your spare room for a while? Course, man. What happened? Turns out stability isn't as valued as advertised. I left that night without drama, without slamming doors or making threats. Just a quiet exit from a marriage that had apparently been a performance piece all along. As I loaded my truck, I could see Jenna through the window, already back on her phone, probably crafting the next chapter of her story. But here's the thing about us stable, reliable types. We're also patient. And patient people don't just react, they plan. The spare room above Pete's garage wasn't much to look at. A twin bed, a dresser that had seen better decades, and a window that overlooked the parking lot of Murphy's bar. But it was quiet, and it gave me space to think without Jenna's constant phone notifications providing soundtrack to my thoughts. I'd been there 3 days when Detective Ray Laramie stopped by. Ray was semi-retired now, but he'd been a client 2 years back when I'd renovated his kitchen. We'd stayed friendly, bonding over our shared appreciation for good bourbon and bad Patriots decisions. Heard you and Jenna hit a rough patch, he said, settling into Pete's kitchen chair with a grunt. Word travels fast in this town. Word travels even faster on social media, I replied, pouring him coffee. I'm apparently the poster child for settling for less. Ray chuckled. Yeah, my daughter showed me that video. Brutal, but that's not why I'm here. He pulled out his phone, scrolled for a moment, then turned it toward me. You might want to see this. It was Chase Brennan's Instagram story from 2 nights ago, the same night I'd left home. The image showed an expensive bottle of champagne, 2 glasses, and the corner of what looked like the Riverside Hotel's signature bedding. The caption read, "Celebrating new beginnings with someone special." Could be anything, I said, but my stomach was already dropping. Could be, except my daughter also follows your wife's private story, the one she thinks only her close friends can see. He swiped to another screenshot. This one showed Jenna's manicured hand holding a champagne flute, same bottle visible in the background. Her caption, "Sometimes the best things happen when you're finally honest about what you want." The timestamp matched Chase's post exactly. Son of a bitch, I whispered. Ray nodded grimly. Gets worse. Chase has been bragging at Murphy's about his latest conquest. Apparently, he's got a thing for married women. Calls it upgrading their situation. Chase Brennan, mortgage broker, gym rat, owner of a BMW he couldn't actually afford, and an ego that could be seen from space. I knew him peripherally. He'd tried to refinance our house twice, both times with deals that would have screwed us over. Jenna had always defended him, said he was just being thorough. Thorough. Right. How long? I asked. Near as I can tell, about 6 weeks. Started around the time she began posting all those workout videos and girls' night stories. 6 weeks. I thought back through the timeline, the new gym membership, the sudden interest in networking events, the way she'd started putting her phone face down during dinner. All the signs had been there. I'd just been too trusting or too stupid to see them. Thanks for telling me, Ray. I owe you one. You don't owe me anything. Just be smart about whatever you're planning. That look in your eyes? I've seen it before. Usually ends with someone in handcuffs. After Ray left, I sat in that cramped room and stared at the screenshots until my eyes burned. The champagne, the hotel, the smug satisfaction radiating from both their posts. While I'd been installing cabinets and building someone else's dream kitchen, my wife had been building a new life that didn't include me. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd humiliated me publicly first. See, if Jenna had just asked for a divorce, I'd have been hurt, but I'd have handled it like an adult. We'd have split things fairly, gone our separate ways, maybe even stayed civil for the sake of mutual friends. But she'd chosen to make me a laughingstock first, to reduce our marriage to a cautionary tale about settling for mediocrity. That changed the rules. I spent the next 2 days doing research. Social media made it easy. Chase posted his entire life online, from his morning protein shakes to his evening scotch. I learned his routine, his favorite spots, his weaknesses. The man was predictable as sunrise and twice as arrogant. Jenna was trickier. She'd deleted the original stability video after the backlash got too intense, but the internet never forgets. Screenshots were everywhere, shared and reshared with commentary ranging from sympathetic to savage. She'd made herself a minor celebrity, the woman who'd said what everyone was thinking about settling in relationships. The irony was perfect. She'd wanted attention, wanted to be seen as someone who'd figured out life's big secrets. Now she was getting exactly what she'd asked for. On Friday night, I drove past our house, my house, the one I'd bought and renovated and poured my sweat into for 5 years. Jenna's car was gone, but Chase's BMW sat in my driveway like a declaration of war. I parked down the street and waited. 2 hours later, they emerged. Jenna in a dress I'd never seen before, Chase with his arm around her waist like he owned her. They were laughing about something, heads close together, completely absorbed in their private joke. They looked happy, genuinely, glowingly happy in a way Jenna and I hadn't been in months, maybe years. For a moment, I felt something that might have been relief. Maybe this was for the best. Maybe we'd both be better off apart. Then I remembered the video, the comments, the way she'd pointed at me like I was a prop in her personal growth story. Relief curdled into something much more useful. I followed them to Marcello's, the Italian place downtown that Jenna had always claimed was too expensive for casual dinners. Watched through the window as Chase ordered wine that cost more than I spent on groceries in a week. Saw him reach across the table to touch her hand, saw her smile in response. My phone buzzed with a text from Pete. "You okay, man? You've been quiet today." I typed back, "Just planning my comeback tour." "That sounds ominous. Don't worry. I'm not going to do anything stupid." And I wasn't. Stupid would be confronting them, making a scene, giving them ammunition to paint me as the unhinged ex-husband. Stupid would be letting emotion drive the bus. Smart would be playing the long game. Patient, methodical, using their own weapons against them. After all, they'd taught me that image was everything. Time to give them a masterclass in public relations. Monday morning brought opportunity in the form of Miranda Santos, Chase's ex-girlfriend and current barista at Grind Coffee. I'd never paid much attention to her before, but desperation makes you notice things, like the way her smile turned arctic whenever Chase's name came up in conversation. "Tom Rourke, right?" she said when I approached the counter. "I heard about you and Jenna. I'm sorry. Thanks, though I'm starting to think it might be for the best. Miranda's laugh had sharp edges. Yeah, Chase has that effect on marriages. Coffee? Large black coffee, and maybe some information if you're willing to share. She glanced around the empty shop, then leaned forward conspiratorially. What kind of information? The kind that might help me understand what I'm dealing with. For the next 20 minutes, Miranda painted a picture of Chase Brennan that was even worse than I'd imagined. Serial cheater, compulsive liar, financial disaster hiding behind expensive clothes and a leased BMW. He specialized in targeting married women, convinced them their husbands didn't appreciate them, then moved on once the novelty wore off. He keeps trophies, Miranda said, refilling my cup. Screenshots of the women crying, begging him not to leave. He shows them to his buddies at the gym like they're hunting photos. Jesus. How many? I know of at least 6 in the past 2 years. Your wife makes lucky number 7. I left grind with more than caffeine in my system. I had ammunition. That afternoon, I put my plan into motion. Step 1. Reconnaissance. I drove to Chase's apartment complex, a flashy new development that screamed, "I'm successful," while whispering, "I'm drowning in debt." His BMW sat in its assigned spot, freshly washed and gleaming. I parked across the street and waited. Patience, after all, was supposed to be my virtue. At 6:30 p.m., Chase emerged in gym clothes, heading for his evening workout. Predictable as clockwork, just like Miranda had said. I waited 10 minutes, then approached his car with a small bag of supplies. I didn't slash his tires or break his windows, too obvious, too criminal. Instead, I carefully loosened the valve stems on all 4 tires, just enough to create a slow leak. By morning, he'd have 4 flat tires and no obvious cause. Frustrating, expensive, but not technically vandalism. Then I placed my real surprise, a small Bluetooth speaker, magnetically attached to the undercarriage, paired to a burner phone. Tomorrow's commute was going to be very interesting. Step 2 required social engineering. I created a fake Instagram account, Maine Real Talk, with a generic profile photo and a bio that read, "Exposing the truth about local businesses and the people who run them." Then I started following everyone in Jenna and Chase's social circles. By Wednesday, I had 30 followers and enough credibility to start stirring the pot. My first post was simple, a screenshot of Chase's New Beginnings story alongside a photo of his BMW in our driveway, time-stamped the same night. The caption read, "When your mortgage broker is working overtime in your neighborhood, hope the rates are competitive." Maine Real Estate. Professional ethics. Within hours, it had been screenshotted and shared across multiple group chats. Chase's boss at First National Mortgage called him in for a meeting. Jenna's phone started buzzing with questions from friends who'd put 2 and 2 together. But I was just getting started. Thursday morning, I activated the Bluetooth speaker as Chase started his commute. The playlist I'd prepared was eclectic: children's songs, meditation music, and, my personal favorite, a 10-minute loop of someone saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," in increasingly desperate tones. Chase pulled over 3 times trying to locate the sound. By the time he reached work, he was 40 minutes late and visibly rattled. The speaker's battery died around noon, but the psychological damage was done. That evening, I was installing crown molding at the Hendersons when Mrs. Henderson brought up the gossip. "Did you hear about Jenna Rourke and that mortgage fellow? My daughter saw them at the Riverside Hotel last weekend. Apparently, there's photos." I kept my expression neutral. People talk. Half of it's probably nonsense. Maybe. But that video she posted about you? Seems like she was laying groundwork, if you know what I mean. I did know what she meant. The whole town was connecting dots, seeing Jenna's stability video in a new light. She wasn't sharing wisdom about appreciating what you have. She was justifying what she was about to do. Friday brought the first real confrontation. I was grabbing lunch at Murphy's when Lexi Morrison cornered me at the bar. "You need to stop this. she said, sliding onto the stool next to me. Stop what? The social media thing, the anonymous posts. We know it's you. I took a bite of my sandwich, chewed thoughtfully. I have no idea what you're talking about. Bullshit. That main Real Talk account started right after you left Jenna. The timing's not a coincidence. Lexi, I barely understand Instagram. You think I'm running some kind of covert operation? I'm a contractor. I install cabinets and fix leaky faucets. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. Jenna's getting death threats. People are calling her a whore, a homewrecker. This has gone too far. Death threats? That genuinely surprised me. From who? Anonymous accounts, fake profiles. Someone's really stirred up the mob mentality. I felt a flicker of concern. I'd wanted to expose their affair, maybe cause some embarrassment, but I hadn't intended to unleash internet vigilantes. Look, I said, I'm sorry Jenna's dealing with that. Nobody deserves death threats, but I'm not responsible for how other people react to information that's already public. Information you made public. Information they made public. I didn't force Chase to post about Hotel Champagne. I didn't make Jenna share her location. They did that themselves. Lexi's face flushed red. You're destroying her reputation over a stupid video. She made one mistake. One mistake? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. The video wasn't the mistake, Lexi. The video was the announcement. The mistake was thinking I'd never find out about the rest. She opened her mouth to argue, but I held up a hand. Save it. You want this to stop? Tell your friend to stop giving me material to work with. Every hotel photo, every cozy dinner, every public display of her new happiness is just more fuel for the fire. I left money on the bar and walked out, leaving Lexi staring after me with something that might have been fear. Good. It was about time someone in their circle realized that actions have consequences. The weekend brought unexpected entertainment. Jenna had scheduled an open house for her biggest listing, a colonial on Elm Street that she'd been trying to move for 3 months. It was supposed to be her comeback moment, a chance to show the real estate community that she was still a professional despite the social media drama. I almost felt bad about what I was planning. Almost. Saturday morning, I enlisted Carlos Martinez, one of my crew members, for a special project. Carlos was 25, bilingual, and blessed with the kind of generic good looks that made him forgettable, perfect for what I needed. You want me to pretend to be a buyer? He asked, looking at the fake business cards I'd printed. Not just any buyer. You're Carlos Mendez, recently relocated from Boston, looking for a family home in the 300 to 400K range. You're pre-approved, you have cash for a down payment, and you're ready to move fast. And then? Then you waste her time for 2 weeks, ask for increasingly ridiculous modifications, and disappear. Carlos grinned. This is about your wife, isn't it? Ex-wife. And yes. The open house was busy, a good sign for Jenna, a better sign for my plan. I watched from across the street as Carlos went inside, playing his role perfectly. 20 minutes later, he emerged with Jenna's business card and a smile that suggested he'd made quite an impression. Phase 1, complete. Sunday evening brought a different kind of satisfaction. I was having dinner at Marcello's, the same restaurant where I'd watched Jenna and Chase the week before, when they walked in for what was obviously a regular date night. Chase saw me first. His step faltered, and he whispered something to Jenna that made her stiffen. They could have left, chosen a different restaurant, avoided the awkwardness. Instead, they doubled down, requesting a table in clear view of mine. The message was obvious. They weren't ashamed, weren't hiding, weren't going to let my presence intimidate them. I admired the boldness, even as I planned to destroy it. I finished my meal slowly, savoring both the excellent chicken parmigiana and the discomfort radiating from their table. Every time Chase laughed too loudly at one of Jenna's jokes, every time he reached across to touch her hand, I could see him checking my reaction from the corner of his eye. When I finally stood to leave, I stopped by their table. Jenna. Chase. I nodded politely. Lovely evening, isn't it? Tom, Jenna replied stiffly. I didn't expect to see you here. Well, you know me. Predictably unpredictable. I smiled at Chase. How's the BMW running? I heard you had some tire trouble this week. Chase's jaw tightened. Fine. Just fine. Good to hear. These European cars can be so temperamental. One little problem and suddenly everything starts falling apart. I left them with that thought, along with a $20 tip for their server and instructions to send over a bottle of their cheapest wine with my compliments. The real fireworks started Monday morning. Carlos called Jenna bright and early, full of enthusiasm about the Elm Street property. He loved the house, he said, but he'd need some modifications. Could she get estimates for removing a load-bearing wall? What about adding a third bathroom? Converting the garage to a home office? Jenna, smelling a quick commission, said she'd look into everything. Meanwhile, I activated Phase 2 of my campaign against Chase. The main Real Talk Instagram account posted a new story. Local mortgage broker Chase Brennan seen entering Riverside Hotel with married client. Is this how First National conducts business meetings? Is professional standards to show main business. This time, I included photos, Chase's BMW in the hotel parking lot, time-stamped and geotagged. Chase entering the lobby with Jenna, both of them clearly dressed for pleasure, not business. The post went viral within hours. Not internet-famous viral, but small-town viral, which was somehow worse. Everyone knew everyone, and everyone had an opinion. By Tuesday, Chase's boss had called him in for another meeting. This time, it wasn't just a conversation, it was a formal reprimand. Mixing personal and professional relationships was against company policy, especially when those relationships involved married clients. Wednesday brought my favorite development yet. Jenna called Carlos with bad news. The structural engineer said removing the load-bearing wall would cost $40,000 and require permits that could take months to approve. Carlos, playing his role beautifully, expressed disappointment, but said he understood. However, he'd found another property that might work better. Could Jenna show him 3 more houses this weekend? She could, and she did, spending her entire Saturday driving Carlos around town, buying him lunch, and talking up properties she knew he'd never buy. Thursday evening, I was at Pete's garage working on his truck when Raina Walsh showed up. Unlike Lexi's confrontational approach, Raina came bearing peace offerings, a 6-pack of beer, and what she probably thought was a reasonable proposal. Tom, we need to talk, she said, settling onto an overturned crate. About? About ending this war before someone gets seriously hurt. I kept working on the brake pads, not looking up. What war? Come on. The Instagram posts, the harassment, the systematic destruction of Jenna's reputation. It's got to stop. Harassment? I finally looked at her. What harassment? Don't play dumb. Someone's been calling her clients, telling them she's unprofessional. Someone's been leaving fake reviews for her business. Someone even called her mother. That last one surprised me. I hadn't called Mrs. Danton, though I couldn't say I was sorry someone had. Raina, I get that you're loyal to Jenna. I respect that. But I'm not responsible for every person in this town who has an opinion about adultery. So you admit it's adultery? I admit that my wife was sleeping with another man while telling the internet that I was a consolation prize. If that's not adultery, it's at least really impressive multitasking. Raina flinched at the crude language. She made a mistake. She made a choice. Multiple choices. The video was a choice. The affair was a choice. The public humiliation was a choice. Now she gets to live with the consequences. What do you want, Tom? What's it going to take to end this? I set down my wrench and really looked at her. Raina had always been the peacemaker in their group, the one who tried to smooth over conflicts and find middle ground. She genuinely wanted to help, which made what I was about to say almost sad. I want her to understand what it feels like to be a laughingstock. I want Chase to understand that actions have consequences. And I want everyone who thought it was funny to watch me get humiliated to realize that the quiet guy in the corner might not be as harmless as he looks. And then? And then we'll see. Raina left without drinking her beer, and I went back to work, on Pete's breaks. But her visit had given me an idea. Something bigger, more public, and infinitely more satisfying than anonymous Instagram posts. It was time to take this show on the road. The Harvest Festival was Pine Ridge's biggest social event of the year. 3 days of food trucks, local bands, and enough small-town drama to fuel gossip until Christmas. This year's theme was Community Strong, which seemed perfect for what I had planned. Jenna had volunteered to help with the Real Estate Association's booth, probably hoping to rebuild her professional image through public service. Chase, never one to miss a networking opportunity, had signed up to sponsor the beer garden. They'd be trapped in public, surrounded by the entire town, with no easy escape route. Perfect. I spent Tuesday finalizing preparations. Carlos had finally revealed his true intentions to Jenna, apologizing profusely but explaining that he'd decided to rent instead of buy. 2 weeks of work, dozens of phone calls, and countless hours of her time, all for nothing. The main Real Talk account posted a helpful timeline of Jenna's recent activities. The stability video, the hotel visits, the cozy dinner dates, all presented as a local business owner's journey of self-discovery. No commentary needed. The photos spoke for themselves. Wednesday morning brought an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Danton, Jenna's mother, stood on Pete's front porch looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Tom, we need to talk." I invited her in, offered coffee, and waited for the lecture I knew was coming. "This has to stop," she said without preamble. "Whatever you're doing to my daughter, it has to stop. I'm not doing anything to your daughter that she didn't do to herself. You're destroying her reputation, her business, her entire life over one stupid video." I laughed, and Mrs. Danton recoiled like I'd slapped her. "One video? Is that what she told you?" "She made a mistake. She made a sex tape, metaphorically speaking. She pointed a camera at me, told the world I was a participation trophy, and then went to celebrate with her boyfriend. The video wasn't the mistake. It was the victory lap." Mrs. Danton's face went white. "You're lying." I pulled out my phone, showed her the screenshots Ray had shared, the hotel photos, the timeline that made everything clear. Watched her expression crumble as the pieces fell into place. "She's been cheating for 2 months," I said quietly. "The video was her way of preparing everyone for the divorce, making me look pathetic so she'd look justified when she left." I didn't know." "Of course you didn't. Because Jenna's always been good at managing her image. But here's the thing about images. They're fragile, and once they crack, they shatter completely." Mrs. Danton left without another word, and I felt something that might have been pity. She'd raised a daughter who thought marriage was a social media opportunity, and now she was watching that daughter face the consequences. Thursday evening, Pete found me in the garage, staring at my laptop screen. "You look like a man with a plan," he said. "I am. Want to share?" I turned the laptop toward him. On the screen was a video file, security footage from the Riverside Hotel, showing Jenna and Chase entering together, leaving together, clearly comfortable with each other in a way that suggested this wasn't their first visit. "How did you get this?" "Ray has friends in the security business. Turns out the hotel's been having trouble with insurance fraud lately. Lots of cameras, lots of archived footage. This is nuclear, Tom. You release this. There's no going back." There was no going back the moment she posted that video. She declared war on our marriage in public. I'm just returning the favor. Friday night, the festival opened with the traditional mayor's speech and the lighting of the ceremonial bonfire. I walked through the crowds, nodding to neighbors, buying a funnel cake, playing the role of the recently divorced man trying to move on with dignity. Jenna was at the real estate booth, looking polished and professional in a way that probably took 2 hours to achieve. She smiled at potential clients, handed out brochures, and pretended that half the people walking by weren't whispering about her personal life. Chase held court at the beer garden, loud and confident, telling jokes and buying rounds like a man without a care in the world. He'd always been good at projecting success, even when his world was falling apart behind the scenes. I waited until Saturday night, when the festival was at its peak and everyone in town was gathered around the main stage for the Battle of the Bands competition. That's when I made my move. The main Real Talk account's final post went live at 8:47 p.m., just as the first band finished their set. It was simple. The hotel security footage, edited down to the most damning moments, with a caption that read, "When your local professionals take their work home with them. Pine Ridge deserves better. Chatter community strong." The video spread through the crowd like wildfire. Phones buzzed, people gathered in small groups to watch and whisper, and within minutes, every eye at the festival was on Jenna and Chase. I watched from across the food court as Jenna's phone started buzzing, saw her check it, saw the color drain from her face, saw her grab Chase's arm and pull him aside for an urgent conversation, but there was nowhere to run. The festival grounds were packed, the parking lot was a maze of cars, and everyone they knew was watching their reaction to being exposed. Chase tried to bluff his way through it, laughing too loudly and making jokes about fake news and jealous ex-husbands. But his face was red, his hands were shaking, and his voice cracked on every other word. Jenna took a different approach. She tried to disappear, gathering her things from the real estate booth and heading for the exit. But Lexi intercepted her, phone in hand, demanding explanations that Jenna couldn't provide. The confrontation escalated quickly. Voices raised, fingers pointed, and suddenly half the festival was watching Jenna's best friend tear into her about lies and betrayal and making us all look like idiots for defending you. That's when I stepped forward. "Ladies," I said, approaching the group with my hands raised peacefully. "Maybe we should take this somewhere more private?" Jenna whirled around, eyes blazing. You did this." "I documented what you did. There's a difference. You're destroying my life. I'm revealing your choices. You want to blame someone for your life being destroyed? Find a mirror." The crowd had gone quiet, sensing drama better than any scripted reality show. Phones were recording, social media was updating in real time, and Jenna Rourke's public meltdown was becoming the most entertaining thing to happen in Pine Ridge since the mayor got caught embezzling from the Christmas fund. "You want to know about stability?" I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Stability is working 60-hour weeks to build a life with someone. Stability is being faithful, being honest, being present. Stability is not pointing a camera at your husband and telling the world he's a consolation prize while you're sleeping with your mortgage broker." The crowd gasped. Jenna's mouth fell open. Even Chase, who'd been trying to edge toward the parking lot, stopped dead in his tracks. "That's right," I continued, warming to my theme. "While I was installing other people's dream kitchens, my wife was living her own dream, just with a different leading man. And when she got caught, suddenly I'm the bad guy for not keeping quiet about it." "Tom, please," Jenna whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Please what? Please let you rewrite history? Please pretend that video never happened? Please act like you didn't humiliate me in front of everyone we know?" I looked around at the crowd, at the faces I'd known for years, at the neighbors and clients and friends who'd watched my marriage become a public spectacle. You want to know what stability really looks like? It looks like consequences. It looks like actions having meaning. It looks like the truth coming out, no matter how ugly it gets. I turned back to Jenna, who was now sobbing openly. "You made our marriage public property. You turned our relationship into content. You wanted everyone to see what you thought of me. Well, congratulations. Now they get to see what I think of you." And with that, I walked away, leaving Jenna and Chase to face the crowd they'd been performing for all along. The festival continued, but the real entertainment was over. I'd gotten my revenge, public and complete, witnessed by everyone who mattered. It was, I had to admit, even more satisfying than I'd imagined. The aftermath was swift and brutal. By Sunday morning, the hotel video had been shared across every social media platform, viewed thousands of times, and picked up by the local news as a story about social media accountability and the consequences of public oversharing. Jenna's real estate license was suspended pending an ethics investigation. Chase was fired from First National Mortgage for violating professional conduct standards. Both of them had become cautionary tales about the dangers of mixing personal drama with public platforms. I, meanwhile, had become something of a folk hero. Tom Rourke's revenge was trending on local Facebook groups. The Pine Ridge Community Forum had 3 separate threads analyzing my festival speech. Murphy's Bar was selling a cocktail called The Stability, bourbon, bitters, and a twist of justice. Pete found me at the Henderson job site Monday morning, grinning like he'd won the lottery. "You magnificent bastard," he said. "You actually did it." "Did what?" "Turned the whole thing around. 6 weeks ago you were the joke. Now you're the hero who stood up to the cheaters and liars." He wasn't wrong. My phone had been buzzing all weekend with messages of support, job offers, and invitations to dinner from people who wanted to hear the story firsthand. The Hendersons had already recommended me to 3 of their friends, specifically citing my integrity and backbone as selling points. "Any word on Jenna?" I asked, not sure if I wanted to know the answer. Lexi posted something about her taking time to focus on personal growth and learning from this experience. Translation: she's hiding at her mother's house until the heat dies down. And Chase? Heard he's moving back to Boston. Something about new opportunities and fresh starts. I felt a moment of something that might have been guilt. Had I gone too far? Destroyed 2 lives over wounded pride and public humiliation? Then I remembered the video, the pointing. The casual dismissal of 5 years of marriage as settling for stability. The way she'd smiled while reducing me to a punchline. Number. They'd made their choices, and now they got to live with the consequences. Tuesday brought an unexpected visitor, Miranda from the coffee shop, looking nervous but determined. "I wanted to thank you," she said, sliding into the booth across from me at Murphy's. "For what?" "For exposing Chase. For showing everyone what he really is." She pulled out her phone, showed me a screenshot of a text conversation. Chase, desperate and drunk, begging her to take him back, promising he'd changed, claiming Jenna had seduced him and none of it was his fault. "He sent 43 messages last night," Miranda said, each one more pathetic than the last. "This morning he showed up at my apartment crying about how his life was ruined and I was the only person who really understood him." "What did you do?" "I recorded the whole thing and posted it on TikTok. Local sleep boy realizes actions have consequences. It's got 12,000 views already." I laughed despite myself. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." "You won't. You're one of the good ones, Tom. What Jenna did to you was cruel and stupid. She had a man who loved her, who worked hard, who would have done anything for her, and she threw it away for Instagram likes and a guy with a fancy car. Her choice to make. Yeah, but choices have consequences. She's learning that now." Wednesday brought closure in an unexpected form. Mrs. Danton called, her voice small and defeated. "Tom, I owe you an apology." "You don't owe me anything." "I do." I raised her to think image was more important than character. I taught her that what people thought mattered more than what was true. This is my fault as much as hers. "Mrs. Danton, she wants to see you, to apologize. Would you consider it?" I thought about it for a long moment. Part of me wanted to refuse, to let Jenna stew in the consequences of her actions without offering any chance for redemption. But a bigger part of me was curious about what she had to say. One conversation, public place, no drama. Thank you. We met Thursday evening at Grind Coffee, Miranda's place. Neutral territory, with a witness who understood the full scope of what had happened. Jenna looked terrible. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes, and she'd lost weight in a way that made her look fragile rather than attractive. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. "Talk. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the video, for the affair, for all of it. I was selfish and cruel, and I destroyed something good because I was too stupid to appreciate what I had." "Okay. That's it? Just okay?" "What do you want me to say, Jenna? That it's all right? That we can work it out? That I forgive you?" "I don't know. Maybe." I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. "You humiliated me in front of everyone we know. You cheated on me for 2 months. You turned our marriage into a joke and our divorce into entertainment. And now you want forgiveness because you got caught and faced consequences? I want forgiveness because I'm genuinely sorry. Are you sorry for what you did? Or sorry that it didn't work out the way you planned?" She didn't answer, which was answer. "Enough. Here's the thing, Jenna. 6 weeks ago, if you'd just asked for a divorce, I'd have been hurt, but I'd have respected your honesty. We could have split things fairly and stayed civil, but you chose to make it public and cruel. You chose to humiliate me first, thinking it would make your exit easier. I know, I was wrong. You were calculating. There's a difference." I stood up, leaving money on the table for my untouched coffee. "I hope you figure out what you actually want from life, instead of just performing what you think looks good online. But that's not my problem anymore." I walked out without looking back, and for the first time in 2 months, I felt genuinely free. Friday brought the final piece of the puzzle. Ray Laramie called with news that made me smile. "Chase's BMW got repossessed this morning," he said. "Turns out he was 3 months behind on payments. Also, his apartment complex is evicting him for lease violations." "What kind of violations?" "The kind where you throw loud parties, damage property, and harass other tenants when you're drunk and angry about your life falling apart." "Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. There's more. Jenna's real estate license suspension became permanent. Ethics board found she'd been mixing personal and professional relationships in ways that violated state regulations." "How so?" "Apparently, Chase had been steering his mortgage clients to her listings in exchange for personal favors. Kickback scheme disguised as pillow talk." I felt a moment of genuine surprise. I'd thought this was just about an affair, but it was deeper than that. They'd been running a con, using their relationship to manipulate clients and split commissions under the table. "So they weren't just cheating spouses," I said. "They were business partners." "Looks that way. Makes your revenge seem almost restrained by comparison." Saturday evening, I was back at Murphy's, celebrating the completion of another successful job, when the bartender turned up the TV volume. Local real estate agent Jenna Rourke and mortgage broker Chase Brennan are facing federal charges for conspiracy to commit wire fraud. The news story laid out the whole scheme. Inflated appraisals, kickback arrangements, clients steered toward properties that benefited both conspirators. The affair hadn't just been personal betrayal, it had been the foundation of a criminal enterprise. "Holy shit," Pete whispered. "They were actually criminals." I watched my ex-wife's mugshot appear on screen, followed by Chase's, and felt something that might have been vindication. All this time I'd thought I was the wronged husband getting revenge on cheating spouses. Turns out I'd been the whistleblower who'd exposed a federal crime. The stability video, the social media exposure, the public humiliation, all of it had started an investigation that revealed something much bigger than adultery. "You know what this means?" Pete asked. "What?" "You're not just the guy who got revenge on his cheating wife. You're the guy who took down a criminal conspiracy with Instagram posts and festival speeches." I raised my beer in a mock toast. "Here's to stability." Turns out it's more valuable than I thought. The bar erupted in laughter and applause, and I realized something important. I wasn't the same man who'd been humiliated by a social media video 2 months ago. I was stronger, smarter, and infinitely more dangerous to people who thought they could manipulate me. Jenna had wanted to make me a cautionary tale, about settling for less. Instead, she'd made me a success story about fighting back. As I walked home that night, past the house I'd built and lost and no longer wanted, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, genuine excitement about the future. After all, I'd just learned that I was very, very good at revenge. And in a world full of people who thought image mattered more than character, that was a valuable skill indeed.